I don't believe there's a better place to be than in a middle school library, after having seen a commitment to student health and well-being. Just a comment about those folks who spend their day in places like this called libraries. We are fortunate in this country to have had investments long ago in the establishment of libraries, both in schools and public libraries. It feeds the mind in the same way that doing your cafeteria feeds the body, and both feed the soul of youngsters. So it's great to be here. It's funny. Jerry Hagstrom and I were at a press conference earlier today, and at the end of it, a reporter, not Jerry, asked the following question. He said, "You're in California, and you're going to be with the first partner again. Why aren't you with the governor?" And honestly, I was taken back by the question, because why wouldn't I be with the first partner?
Absolutely.
We can have that choice.
We can do
I
it.
mean, there is no public official in state or local or federal government that's any more committed to kids and kids' well-being than your first partner. With all due respect to the governor. Because of her leadership, we're talking about the enormity, Superintendent, what you've done here in terms of all the programs that are available to students at this school and to students across the state of California. It's no small measure to put resources behind universal free school meals. That takes a commitment, more than lip service. It takes real resources that this state has put forward, because this state understands that when youngsters are fed and fed well, the expectation is that they'll do well, and they will. This state understands and appreciates that for many youngsters, the very best meal they will get, and in some cases the only meal they get, will be at schools like this. So when you consider that, and you consider that the first partner also understood the significance of connecting schools who are purchasers of food, and she reminded me today, the largest commercial purchaser of food are the school districts in the state of California. You can talk about restaurant chains and so forth, but schools dwarf the purchasing. So how many meals do we serve here on a daily basis in the school district?
It's about 30,000 meals.
Oh, 30,000, that's 30,000 meals a day. The math is too big for me, Congressman.
A lot of zeros.
You deal with billions, so I'm sure in trillions, so you probably have done the math, but that's a lot of meals, folks. And every single meal is one that's delivered by folks who are dedicated and committed to the well-being of the children they're serving. But the ability of the first partner to make the connection between those 30,000 meals and the farmers who work every single day in this state and other states to produce fresh, nutritious, and in this case, organic food. That connection is incredibly important, because youngsters need to know where their food comes from, and farmers need to be connected to those young people, because those young people are going to be the leaders of the future. They're going to be the folks making decisions in the halls of Congress and state legislatures about farm bills and things of that nature. And so to the extent that these youngsters at a very early age understand and make the connection between how difficult it is to grow something, how hard it is to market that, and therefore gain a level of respect and understanding for farmers, and conversely for farmers to see the economic opportunity that schools present, an economic opportunity that is absolutely essential to the future of farming in this country. And here's why I say that. This last 2 years, best 2 years in farm income in the history of the country. And I've said to one of our audiences recently, Congressman, that after saying that, the Secretary of Agriculture should sit down and problem is this. 50% of farmers, roughly 50% of farmers didn't make any money at all during a record year. Another 40% made money, but didn't make enough so that the majority of their income had to come from some other source, an off-farm job. So that's 90% of our farmers who in record years either didn't make money or didn't make enough to be the majority of what they needed to take care of their family. So that means 10% of our farmers did incredibly well, and more power to them. But we've got to do something about the 90%. So as we talk about a farm bill, as we talk about the future of agriculture, the first partner's connection to those farmers, those 90% of those farmers who need additional market opportunities, who need local market opportunities, who need markets that aren't necessarily focused on a global commodity price, but one that is a negotiated, dictated price based on local conditions, offers true hope to those folks. So that's why I'm here. I think I can make the case that I should be with the first partner. Again, with due respect to your husband. And you all are very lucky to have the first partner you have. And what an amazing story this school district is. I mean, you have figured it all out. You figured it all out. Some people have universal free meals, but they haven't made the farm to school connection. And some folks have made the farm to school connection, but they don't have universal free meals. And some folks may have made both of that, but they don't have a food truck that goes around and makes sure that kids in remote areas get fed. And some school districts have all of that, but they don't really operate much of a summer program. This school district does it all. And that's another reason why I'm here today. I'm also here to say that the President and Vice President are committed to this issue of food security and nutrition security, and I mentioned both. They are not the same. For the reality is that people can be fed, but not necessarily fed well. And the key and the challenge for our children is to make sure that they are fed and fed well. So that's why the President sponsored the White House conference on hunger, nutrition, and health. First one we've had in some time, in about 60 years. And the reason he did was he understood that it was necessary to galvanize the country to focus on this issue of making sure that hungry people had access to food, and that all of people, and particularly our children, had access to healthy food. Because there is a direct connection between that and health. One of the reasons this school district is so concerned, I learned today, is that you had, historically, a high level of diabetes among your young people. And that's an unfortunate circumstance, and in some cases a preventable one. And that unfortunate circumstance is if it continues on into adult life, those youngsters will be faced with a lifetime of chronic disease. They'll be faced with a lifetime of productivity that isn't quite what it could have been. And that's lost opportunity, not just for that youngster, but for our country. So it's important and necessary for us to really focus on this issue of nutrition security and food security, which means that we have to make sure that as a country, we provide meaningful benefits. As a country, we provide access to healthy and affordable food. That we help translate the intricacies of diet and nutrition science in the language that ordinary folks can understand. And that in everything we do, we provide an equity lens to understand the importance of culturally sensitive and relevant foods. And we're very much committed to that in this administration. That's why we looked at this, the Thrifty Food Plan, which is the basis of the SNAP program. And we said for the first time in 45 years, maybe it needs to be adjusted to reflect the reality of families today in America in terms of what they actually do buy at the grocery store, how they actually do prepare food and their circumstances, how active they are, how many calories they need. That's one of the reasons why we focused on improving the WIC program. Not only improving the package, but also making sure that the program was modernized so that folks could have online shopping and ordering opportunities, so that we could figure out ways in which we could embrace schools and others to encourage more participation in a program that before we began this effort, only 50% of those eligible were taking advantage of it. Now it's 60%, but we need to get it up to where SNAP is, 80, 85% participation. It's why we focused our emergency food programs on making that connection the first partners made by ensuring and requiring that portions of the money that we provided for purchasing of the food banks in schools be spent directly with local and regional food producers, not just the large-scale commercial providers. It's why we embraced and, as a result of the Congressman's support for the American Rescue Plan, additional resources for farm to school. We took $10 million, Congressman, from your money, the money that you allocated. We had helped 5,000 schools expand their farm to school program. Now that's 5,000 new market opportunities for farmers across the country. It's why we have the Healthy Meals Food Initiative, designed to focus attention and the country's attention on schools that actually are getting the job done, like this one, providing resources to help through this transition period that we're in as we go back to the standards that we had before the pandemic hit. Standards, by the way, which according to Tufts, essentially did make a fundamental difference in the quality of the meals that kids were receiving from a nutritional standpoint. That's why we're taking some of those resources and challenging the food industry to figure out creative ways to use a lot of those spices and leafy greens I just saw. That can be done everywhere, not just here, but everywhere, in order to make food more delicious. And it's also why we are working collaboratively in a period of time where we are transitioning back to those standards, where we're looking at ways in which we can reduce the sugar content, reduce the sodium content, and continue to maintain the whole grain requirements. And doing it in a way that understands the challenges that many schools face. So I'm happy to be here today. I'm proud to be here today to recognize the important work that's being done here. And I will finish with this. You know, there are many reasons why America is a great nation. Some would say our Declaration of Independence is embarking, and some would say the Constitution is the bulwark of the strength of our democracy, and some would say the important role that citizens play in electing their officials is incredibly important. I would make the case that our nutrition programs are a fundamental reason why we have a stable and secure democracy. Think about it. Think about all the places in the world, Congressman, that are troubled today. What do they have? A lot of hungry people, and a lot of unemployed people. So when you have nutrition programs, and you got school meal programs, and you got a WIC program, and you got emergency assistance helping food banks through a tough period of time, what does that do? It empowers all of us to help those who are struggling from day to day. And that allows them to focus on their job. It allows the students here to focus on their work as students. It allows us to have a more stable and secure country. So as we consider the various needs of this country, I hope we understand and appreciate that these programs are as fundamental to national security and to economic security and to equity as just about anything else that Congress votes on and supports. And I think if we approach it with that attitude, the attitude that you all approach it here in California, we'll establish the priority rate. And most importantly of all, our kids will be taken care of, and we'll be a stronger and better nation for it. So again, thank you very much for the opportunity here to be here today. It's really been educational. I really appreciate meeting the students, and I want to just say I really appreciate meeting Farmer Al. Let me tell you about Farmer Al. So we got a mutual friend, Walter Robb, who lives around here. Used to run Whole Foods. He always talks about this guy, Farmer Al. And every once in a while, he sends me Farmer Al's peaches. And I gotta tell you, they are just free plug.
You're very welcome.
So we in Washington D.C. / Waukee and Boonville, Iowa are customers. But it's pride and it's a genuine love of producing quality food that drives this guy and drives his operation. And hopefully we can create more opportunities for him